Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's video, which is a rather unexpected one, may I say. Normally, I'd be releasing a detachment video today, but yesterday we received from GW a rather unexpected update and errata for the Genestealer Cultists Codex. And oh boy, are there some things to discuss. Realistically, we weren't expecting anything until the next balanced data state, which is in roughly a couple of months' time. So this really is a nice Brucey bonus to see us there. And I suppose in many ways, the thing to take away from this update and errata is that GW is actually acknowledging there are things wrong with this codex and it needs changes. And so this is just something teeny weeny just to tide us over, but is it so teeny weeny? Well, that's something to be discussed in just a moment. And if you haven't seen the update and errata as of yet, it is available on Warhammer community website. If you don't know how to find it or exactly where it is very confusing these days. GW products are all over the place, especially their rules, at least anyway. I will be posting a link in the description of this video, so just click on that or copy and paste it into your web page and have a nice quick little read through it by yourself. Because in this video, we're going to be focusing on just two parts of the errata. The first bit regarding the sort of just quality of life rewording of the rules for hybrid metamorphs. It's a big one, so don't miss out on that one. We'll start with that. And then we'll be looking at the rehauling of the Cult Ambush special rule. That's right, our army rule has been changed, not just reworded, changed. And so we'll be finishing the video on that. So the hybrid metamorphs are one of our best units within the codex. They're excellent melee close combatants, and they have this really cool ability within their data sheet called Brood Surge, which means when they basically take casualties, they surge towards the enemy. They move towards the enemy in a similar manner to World Eater Berserkers. And to double down on that ability, if you armed your models with auto pistols instead of hand flamers, then that entire unit would move not just a random d6 inches, but the full 6 inches every time you take a casualty. But there was a little issue, right? Because within the Brood Surge rule, in the second paragraph, it states very clearly, and it still does within the app at the moment, by the way, guys, this is where I'm reading it to you from. And it goes, if at the start of the battle, every model in this unit is equipped with an auto pistol, blah, blah, blah. You get the special rule, basically, this full 6-inch Brood Surge, right? But when you go to war gear options, you can swap a hybrid Metamorphs auto pistol with a cult icon. And you see, that was where the problem lied. You couldn't, rules as written, take a cult icon and still benefit from this full 6 inches worth of Brood Surge. And even though this seemed overly harsh and restrictive, and it did seem that rules as intended, this wasn't supposed to be the case. Rules as written, you couldn't combine the two. But luckily for us, GW have come across with this errata, and they've changed the paragraph to as follows. If at the start of the battle, no model in this unit is equipped with a hand flamer, each time this unit makes a Brood Surge, it can move up to 6 inches instead of d6 inches. So they've corrected it. And obviously the rules as intended were that you should be able to take a cult icon and not be penalized. So they've changed it. As long as there's no hand flamer in that unit, you get the full 6 inches. Great little change, just, literally a couple of words changed, and it just makes that unit even more desirable. And, Metamorphs, as I say, are one of the best units we have in the Codex. But now we move on to the truly spicy meatball. the complete sort of, that's not a complete overhaul, but, the changes, actual changes to the way that the Cult Ambush army rule works. Now what I've done is I've popped on screen the original wording and now the new way that the rule works, with the changes highlighted in red. And ultimately what GW have done is they've added this sort of little extra bit to the end of the first paragraph. And that's the bit we're going to focus on now. So I'm just going to read it out to you, but this is in reference to how to bring a unit on once it's been destroyed and you've successfully rolled a 5 up on the Cult Ambush roll. So it reads as follows. You can set up that unit on the battlefield using a Cult Ambush marker as described below, or if it has Deep Strike, in the reinforcement step of one of your movement phases, you can set up that unit anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches horizontally away from all enemy units. Wowza! That is actually now really good. How good? Well, only time will tell. Whether this is enough to make the army rules strong enough to contend with the army rules of, other armies that we can go up against, that remains to be seen, as I say, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. And the general consensus on all the forums on Facebook and online and stuff is that, it's very positive. This could be the fix that we needed. And at the very least, guys, it's, as I say, an acknowledgement from GW that our army rule is subpar. It doesn't really work. It's not good enough. And in my opinion, it's their way of testing the water before the next balanced data slate. They can make a little change here, and if that's good, they gets a little bit of playtesting. If it works, if it fixes it, brilliant. But if it's not quite enough, well, they can come in and do something a little bit more with that data slate, which is, where they make more sweeping changes, whether they do that by dropping points across the army or, again, adding additional aspects to this rule. We don't know how they're going to do it. And to be fair to them, there was a lot of speculation, a lot of discussion on how the Cult Ambush rule could be changed to make it viable. Some people were just completely replacing it with new rules, or the old rules that we used to have, like with Crossfire and stuff like this. Other people were still trying to work with the Cult Ambush rule, but they were, all the ideas that we had were kind of like, they were cool and stuff, but no one came up with this. No one came up with this change. So fair play, GW. Have a pat on the back from me, because you thought outside the box, and this is a really interesting change into the way that the rule works without actually restructuring it in any real significant way. Ultimately, the rule still works as it did before, but, and here's the change, guys, because it is a little wordy and it's a little complicated. If you're not overly familiar with the Cult Ambush rule, well, at first you'd be like, well, how's it changed? How's this different? Or how is this significant? Well, ultimately, pretty much our entire army, right, benefits from Deep Strike. So when we die, if we get that 5 up, if we roll a 5 up when we die, we come back. Before, we could only ever come back using the Cult Ambush markers that were generated when we rolled that 5 up. That restricted where we could come in, and it really telegraphed to the enemy where we would come in. And as a result, it was very easy to counter. The enemy would send their troops there, and all they have to do was get within 9 inches of that marker, and they would remove it off the battlefield. And in essence, as a result, they would stop a unit that could be worth, 100, 200, possibly even 300 points if you were bringing Aberrants back. They could remove that all in one go just by removing a blip that is very hard to defend and very easy to remove. But as I just mentioned, our entire army has Deep Strike. The only units in our army that can benefit from the Cult Ambush rule that doesn't have Deep Strike are our Jackal Bikers. They're the only unit. Everyone else can Deep Strike. And so now, as long as you get that 5 up to bring that unit back when it dies, you can always bring it back. Doesn't matter if the Cult Ambush marker is removed or not. Our entire army is capable of coming back again, apart from the bikers. And so Cult Ambush markers are now purely psychological weapons to use on our opponent. They will look at that now, and they will know if they remove it, it doesn't stop whatever unit they've destroyed coming back. But if they don't remove it, then you get a free use of rapid ingress per marker. And in fact, if you have, say, 3 markers down on the battlefield at once and you decide to use them all on the same turn, well, as I say, like using rapid ingress 3 times in the same turn. Just a very telegraphed rapid ingress. It's not like the opponent won't know units are coming from there, but because we can deep strike, you know, they don't know whether we're going to use it or not. And so, as I say, the psychological warfare that we can use with these markers just goes up. And that's where this army, one, is very fun to use, but where it can gain a lot of strength. A canny player knows how to use their core ambush markers to bait and switch, to draw enemies out of position. And now it's not just a simple decision for the enemy to go after that marker, and hey, you know what, even if they do go out of position, it doesn't matter because they've removed the capability of one of your units to come back. Essentially, they get, as I say, 100, 200, 300 points, whatever that unit costs, they get that as a reward for removing the marker. Well, now there is no reward for getting rid of it, but there's a lot of risk to leaving it. It's the tactical flexibility that we want and the psychological messy uppiness that the enemy doesn't want. Giving the enemy too many options to handle, creating doubt in their mind, that can make them make mistakes. The core ambush markers themselves aren't that valuable, really, not to us. We don't really need them, but they're there. They are a threat. And as I say, if it just gives the enemy just a little bit too much to think about on a crucial turn, that could cause them to making a mistake somewhere more important, which might lose them an objective or a unit, or as I say, might just simply draw a unit out of position. There's lots of different ways we can use the markers now to really mess with the opponent, but with now 0 risk, really. We don't need them, so it doesn't matter if they get removed. As such, I'm really interested, guys, to see how you now use your markers. Let us know in the comments. Let us know how you're going to use the markers almost aggressively. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can't get too close to the enemy because, well, the markers will get removed. But how are you going to place them now? Possibly within enemy territory, behind their lines, where before you could guarantee that marker was going to get removed and you would lose a unit. You couldn't take that risk. Now we can potentially take that risk. Are you going to save up the markers? So, for turn 4, turn 5, ultimately you've just got like 3, 4, 5 different markers all over the place to bring in that one last final wave of units. There's a lot of options, and it's really fun thinking about what we can do with this from now on. As I say, is this enough to fix the army, or at least the army rule? I don't know. As I say, we do need to playtest it. We need to work it out. I like it, and it's added a great little mechanic to the army rule. It gets 2 massive thumbs up for me, and I do believe that this has gone a long way, if not all the way, to fixing the army rule itself. But of course, we will need work on the rest of the codex at one point by GW. That's for certain. But for a unexpected sort of surprise pop-up errata in FAQ, we certainly cannot complain. Well, with that, guys, I want to thank you very much for coming to Nerdvana and watching my video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. I will be releasing a new detachment video very soon. I'm sort of partway through filming it, but I just wanted to get this out here whilst it was as relevant as possible. So thank you, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye, and that's it for now. Ta-ta.